Good morning and welcome to the Utopian Cafe for Friday, October 15th. And as always on Friday, we've got Stan Phillips here. We're going to talk about the ALCS matchup, the NLCS. We might even preview a little bit of Game 6 of the table between the Padres and Reds. That's coming up Saturday. And of course, as always, we have 5 questions for Stan. Good morning, Stan. How are you today?
All right. How are you, Joey?
Doing good. If I'm being honest, I have a little bit of a cramp in the left leg, so we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through the day as we always do if this happens. But the first thing I have to ask you before we even get started is: did Wilmer swing last night? Did he swing that bat?
Hell no. Uh, but the only thing I have to say about that is I don't know if you saw his numbers against Scherzer. Might have been better off that they called. I think he's like 1 for 14 against Scherzer career wise, like 10 strikeout. It was basically a done deal anyway. So I think Wilmer didn't know what to do. So he did check his swing. I'll give him credit for that. And it was not a swing in my book. But at that point, I don't think it mattered. And that's the one thing I was questioning after looking at the stats today about Wilmer. The Giants didn't have a left-handed bat, and I don't even know who was on the bench or whatever at that time. But you would think with so much on the line that they would have pinch hit for Wilmer there. Wilmer's a great hitter. He's a great pinch hitter, and he eats up lefties. But I think he's had his worst career performance against Scherzer more so than any other pitcher. But to get back to your question, no, he did not swing.
I was so disappointed by the way that ended last night. Now, again, I really wasn't rooting for either team. I did say before the game that I thought the Giants would win, but it's such a disappointing way. Both teams coming into last night's game with 109 wins. The Dodgers scored. I think they scored in the top of the ninth. Just a disappointing way to end the season for the Giants. But yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, if you're one for 14 with 10 strikeouts, there's not much of a chance. But I would have liked to seen him get a full at bat there. But anyway, so the playoffs are set. The championship series are set in Major League Baseball. We've got Boston and Houston. I believe that starts today. And then we've got the Braves and Dodgers in a rematch from last year. So I know we talked about last week. I think I asked you who was going to win these divisional rounds. Now that we're down to 4, who do you like in that Red Sox-Astros series?
Well, I don't. Anything can happen, but I don't think it's going to be as close as people make it out to be. I think the Boston's kind of been on a magical carpet ride, beating the Yankees and beating Tampa Bay. But as we discussed, I think maybe even on your show last Friday, I think Houston's just a team on a mission. And despite all the adversity going their way coming into the season, they're showing that they're a class team and they can win, whether or not they're using signals or not. And I think they're peaking at the right time. And I just don't think Boston's going to have the pitching to contain them. I think it will be a lot of runs scored, but a lot more scored by Houston in this series. And did you ask me about the Dodgers series? No, you didn't yet. I don't think so. So what are your feelings on that series, the Astros Red Sox?
So my rooting interest, I'm going to root for Boston, but I'm picking the Astros in 6. And I agree with you. I think we're going to see a lot of like 9-7 games, 8-5, 10-8 type games. I'm going to root for Boston. There's a little bit of a family tie into that Boston team, so I always in an American League series, I find myself rooting for Boston more times than not. But I agree with you. I think Houston's going to take that one in 6. And then we've got Braves Dodgers, which is a rematch from last year. And I'll be honest, I didn't watch much, if any, of the postseason last year. I mean, it was on. But as far as memories, I have very little. The only thing I remember from last year's postseason was that Brett Phillips game. I call it the Brett Phillips game. When was it game 4, game 3 or game 4, when he had that base hit to right, there was a bobble. And then I think it was a Rosarina like stumbled getting home, and there was this
Yeah,
like,
to
is it
crawl
good
home.
score?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's actually my favorite Joe Buck call of all time. I'm not a big Joe Buck fan, especially for baseball, but that's my favorite Joe Buck call of all time, and that's all I remember from last year's postseason. But it is a rematch. I'm rooting for the Braves, but again, I'm picking the Dodgers in 5.
Well, I think if a team can beat the Dodgers other than the Giants is the Braves because their starting pitching is that good. But I said this in the beginning of the year. This may be one of the best baseball clubs ever assembled, the Dodgers. And they lost Trevor Bauer. They don't have Max Muncy, and they're still a powerhouse. So if you go by just their roster and their capabilities, they should win this series. But the Braves do have talent. Freddie Freeman could be one of the best. Maybe everyone talks about Mike Trout, but you look at Freddie Freeman the last 5 years, and Trout's been injured a few seasons here. Freddie Freeman may be the best baseball player in the last 5 years if you add his numbers up and look at it. So what the Braves have done is amazing. They've put the right pieces together, and I'm not a firm believer in a team of destiny, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did beat the Dodgers because everything seems to be falling into place for them. And sometimes when things fall into place like that, the little pieces add up, and just for that 1 year, you put it together. But if I had to pick, it would be the Dodgers. And like you, I'm rooting for the Red Sox, and that's only because of not Steve, my hate for the Yankees. But that's the reason why I would pick the Red Sox. Because I would root for them. I always do for them when they're playing the East Coast teams in the American League.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think it's going to be Houston and LA again, another rematch like that. And if it is, I think you will have the two best teams in baseball going besides San Francisco. And no one knows how San Francisco is going to do next year. Everything came together for them. But talent-wise, you may have the two most talented teams right now peaking at the right time in the World Series if it's Houston and the Dodgers.
And quite honestly, I think that's what Fox would probably want as far as storyline, getting that Astros-Dodgers rematch.
They can feed off that.
Yeah, Joe Kelly versus Correa and Bregman and all those guys. So I think that's what Fox would want. So I guess if we're looking at all 4 matchups, the Red Sox and Dodgers would be a rematch of, I think they played each other in 18.
Yeah.
And I think that went 6. Houston and LA would be a rematch of 17, which to this day, I still think in that series, that Astros-Dodgers series, we saw the best games 2 and games 5 in World Series history in that series. And then we've got Houston Braves, which would be like an old like WTBS game. I remember watching a lot of Astros Braves games when I was a kid. And then we would have what would be the 4th one? Braves Red Sox, which I don't think they've ever played each other in a World Series.
No, not since they've been in Atlanta or Milwaukee, I don't think. No, I would have to say no. No.
Who did the Boston Braves play in 14?
The Boston Braves were actually pretty good. They were dominant before the Yankees were, but I don't know who. I'd have to look back and see who they played in the World Series. But the Braves were a very good team.
If Sal Tartaglia is watching it, but he'll know because I know the Boston Braves were in the World Series in 1914. I'm gonna actually look that up right now because it's gonna kill me to not know. Oh, Philadelphia A's. They beat the Philadelphia A's.
Yeah, right. I think Fox. I guess Fox is doing they always do the World Series. I think their dream matchup, as far as ratings would be concerned, would be Boston and Los Angeles. Because I always say the core 4 of America's teams are the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Yankees. So they would be your 4 core teams, and you would have 2 of the 4 core there that automatically bring in eyeballs just due to the fact by the team name. So I think Houston would be a big draw just due to the fact it's the novelty of it. People want to root against Houston, but I think it would be East Coast, West Coast, Red Sox, and Dodgers. And I think the only people on the East Coast not rooting for the Red Sox would probably be the Yankee fans. And I think it would be the same way out the West Coast. Everyone root for Dodgers except for the Giant fans. or maybe the Padre fans too. I don't know how heated that's become.
How do you feel about as just a baseball fan? How do you feel about the whole Astros thing? Now it's been, I guess 4 years. Like, do you forgive them? Is it still a thing?
Well,
It didn't seem to be such a big storyline this year as I thought it would be. Them going into like different cities and stuff.
Well, last year I did not want to see them advance in the playoffs because A, they were an under 500 team and they had a chance to get to the World Series. And to me, that would have been a travesty if they would have gotten in. And I was still a little bit bitter over the fact I thought they got off the hook quite easily. My guys who were punished weren't even like, who's the manager for Detroit now?
Hinch.
He was suspended for a year, but he wasn't even managing, so he got off the hook on that. So I think the penalties were pretty lenient, but same thing with steroids too. I mean, Alex Rodriguez was caught twice. He came back to play. Whatever he does, when he's not being punished, should be credible no matter what. And I think the same thing if Houston did cheat beforehand, but they weren't caught until a certain point in time. I give them credit for getting away with it all the time. And they paid their price. They were punished. That's what the league bestowed upon them, those punishments. And no, it would not bother me if Houston won. As a matter of fact, that was one of the few things. I'm very rarely a whiner when it comes to sports. But I was kind of like rooting against the Astros last year because of what they did. But some people are going to whine forever about the Astros, and that's a shame. It's sort of like the whole Pete Rose thing. If you're going to have gambling commercials every time you put on a ball game, and you don't have Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame, and you get these, I'm going to call out people in my baseball group, as a matter of fact. Every time I mention Pete Rose, cheater, should not be in the Hall of Fame. Well, you know what? 40 years later, 50 years later, that's now acceptable, and he never bet on his team. So the times change, the morals change, the values change. So if you're punished for whatever way, and Pete Rose has been punished more than anyone, I don't mean to go on a Pete Rose tangent. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. So what the Astros did was minor as far as punishment was concerned, but they paid their price. If they win, hats off to them. You can't deny they don't have talent. So it's not like they won because they didn't have talent. Same thing with steroids. You had catchers batting 180 on steroids. They didn't hit 60 homers a year. You have to be talented in some way or another, even to use steroids. So,
and I agree with you. By the way, I've been saying this since the late '80s that Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. It's a museum first and foremost. I've never been to Cooperstown, but when I take my daughter at some point, I would love to show her the all-time hit king, the all-time home run king, some of the great pitchers of the last 20 years, like Bonds. Very polarizing figure. If you bring up Barry Bonds, half the room wants to say he's a Hall of Famer, half says he's not. That guy was a Hall of Famer before he even put on a Giants uniform. I mean,
right.
Maybe he wasn't first ballot. Maybe that all happened after he joined the Giants, but there's a reason why he signed that contract with San Francisco is because he was a fantastic ball player with Pittsburgh. And it's obviously used, but it's a museum, and we need to start putting these great players in the museum to best capture the history of baseball. Because how can you not have the hits leader? How can you not have the I won't call him the home run king, but the guy with the most home runs? We have to acknowledge that somehow. Even if you want to put on the plaque, he used creatine or whatever, the clear, whatever he used, or for Pete Rose, say, he bet on baseball. It wasn't, it was against the rules back then. But like you said, every telecast you watch is a commercial for DraftKings or download this gambling app. And I think I even saw a game this year in the regular season. You know how they have the ads on the mound, like if you're watching on TV, and it was for a casino. So come on.
Yeah. And to get back to Bonds, I doing the group, I always look at different sites to get information, like statistical information. I think he was the last player to actually steal 50 bases in a year and knock in 100 runs. And you know how hard that is to either knock in 100 runs or steal 50 bases, but to do it in 1 year. So this was when he was with Pittsburgh, and that's why he was so sought after by San Francisco. It wasn't his home run numbers. It was his overall offensive production. He was a beast, and he was hitting 30 plus, 40 plus home runs. And the only thing that happened with steroids is he built up a lot of muscle mass. And I guess when you swing the bat that hard, the way he did naturally, when you have that muscle on top of it and still can maintain that speed, you're going to crush the ball. So I can see maybe the home run record would be in question, but his overall ability as a baseball player should never be questioned. He was a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah. A couple things, and again, not to make this like the Barry Bonds show, but like two statistics that I always found interesting with Bonds. He hit 73 homers in 2001. He never hit more than, I think, 49 in any other season. And people think like, oh, he crushed Aaron's home run record. He only hit 7 more. He hit 756 and then hit like 6 more homers in his career, and then that was it. Now, I don't know if he was blackballed by the owners. Apparently, there were some teams maybe interested in making him a DH the following year. I know that there was some interest possibly from the Marlins, the Angels I was hearing as well, but he never played again after that year. And, it's a very polarizing conversation on whether a guy like Bonds deserves to be in or not. Now, before we get to 5 questions today, now Stan and I have been teasing this for like a month. We're going to be collaborating big time in the next couple weeks going forward. Just watch out for announcements from us in the future. Stan is officially now an admin for the Utopian Baseball Universe, and I am an admin for Baseball A Way of Life. So look for big announcements from Stan and I in the next couple of weeks as we start heading into this off season. Stan, anything to add to?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're making that announcement, because probably after this weekend, I'm going to start throwing teasers out there saying like, who would be interested in baseball roundtable discussions and what would you want to discuss? And anyone who replies will be contacted, and hopefully you guys hop on board. That's one of the features we're looking to be doing, just have roundtable conversations, have conversations about questions of the day that we post in the group, poll questions. We can even talk Utopian Baseball Universe if you guys want. It's a joint effort. So whatever floats your boat, we can talk about. And Joey has run these trivia contests so well that we want to make it a permanent feature. Right now, we're probably looking at maybe once a month, once every 3 weeks, Joey. Is that what we're kind of hinting at there? And have the best of the best, because I know when we combine both forces, my group and Joey's group, and I've seen some of the people who've competed in Joey's group, and we got some studs in Baseball Way of Life too. It's going to be a classic. It's going to be a must-watch. Do I say YouTube TV or just TV? You will say YouTube TV. But those are some of the things we have planned. And I'll tip my hat here too. We're looking to do exclusives, like, you have like the MLB Network Showcase. Well, Joey may be doing a Utopian broadcast once a week when the season pops in, and that'll be exclusive on Baseball Way of Life on there and on the YouTube channel. And right now it's all hypothetical, but we're both big New York Met fans. And I was doing a daily podcast. I'm coming back on board today. Here's a major announcement from me, selfish me, promote me. I'll be doing a Met YouTube broadcast and podcast, picking up where I promised I'd left off after the season and doing one of those. But we're going to do, and I think Joey has my blessings on this, and he's welcome to hop on board. Sort of like we do on Friday here. We always end up talking Mets. Well, we're going to have This Week in Mets. And we're going to recap everything that's happened and any topics, past or present, or what's going on in the past. And that'll be fun for the Met fans out there. And we have other things in the works too, but that's going to be probably my exclusive content on Joey's channel. Is This Week in New York Mets will probably be, I don't know, maybe a Friday, Thursday, whatever day you guys want it to be, or Joey and I can both concur on that. And Joey's always welcome to hop on board because he's a good conversationalist, and we can have guys just talking about the Mets if they want to hop on board. But that'll be exclusive to the Utopian. It won't be part of my channel or YouTube cast. So those are some of the things we have, and we're really excited about it. And we hope all you guys do hop on board. Because I've seen Joey; he's got great shows on his thing all the time. His Utopian Baseball Universe site, and I think it's just the whole world is going to get more of us, and hopefully they'll see how talented Joey is when it comes to these things.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. So just to piggyback on what Stan is saying, there's going to be content in this group that is going to be specific to Utopian Baseball Universe, brought to us by Stan. And then I'm going to be bringing content to Baseball: A Way of Life that you won't see within this group, to give everyone incentive to join both. It's going to be a lot of fun. And again, more announcements, more information coming in the next couple weeks. All right, here we go. Today is Friday, so we got 5 questions for Stan. Some of these baseball related, some of them not. Some of these might be questions for myself, and I just need a little help here. So here we go. 5 questions for Stan. Question number 1. This is we talked about Wilmer's swing last night as being controversial. This first question is creating a buzz on my Facebook page right now, Stan. Number 1, am I a monster for the way I eat my Kit Kats?
Well, Joey, I wish I had more time in a day to watch some of your Utopian baseball broadcasts, because I'm running 6 zillion Facebook groups. So when I do, I like to see it, but I couldn't help it. I think this was on your personal page. You devouring a Kit. That was, oh my God. Can we just
Stan's gonna quit?
Can we just call it a cut? No, it was sacrilegious. No one eats a Kit Kat like that. The whole
no, I don't have one
to
to
break
show,
into
but
little bars.
Yeah, so let's say this is the Kit Kat. I know you're supposed to break them off like a gentleman, and I put
he
the
ate
whole
half
thing
of 3 fingers, and I said, "Oh my God!" It's best we do these in separate locales, because who knows what he'll do when I have a Kit Kat in my mouth. But
now, I want to go on record. Now, again, I think I even said this after I posted that video. There was nobody in the room. There was 0 chance of anyone wanting to share that. Now, if my girlfriend was there, or if my mom was up, or my niece, my daughter, of course I would, do the thing with the breaking and all that. But look, it was 11 o'clock at night. Daddy was hungry. That thing goes right in my mouth.
No, and believe me, we have Halloween candy already set up in bowls, and Kit Kats on one of them. And a day or 2 doesn't go by where this is supposed to be Halloween candy now. So my wife, I'm sneaking around, take one from the bottom. She'll know what's on top. I pull one out all the time, but eventually it starts sinking a little bit. So I have to go to the store and replenish it somehow and put more candy underneath. But yeah, but even though no one's watching, I eat a Kit Kat the way a Kit Kat professional should eat a Kit Kat. Well, whatever floats your boat, I'm happy for you.
All right. Question number 2. And again, I'm like, I'm the least cultured person you've ever met. I don't make beds. I put a bed sheet on last night. I struggled with it. So this question kind of falls in line. I honestly don't know the answer. Number 2, what is fabric softener's function? Like, why are we buying it? What is it used for?
Well, I have no idea either. But I do think it makes it softer. That's why they call it fabric softener.
Yeah, so
when you lay on it, it feels better. I have no idea. It takes the tenseness, the coarseness out of the fabric. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I put it on the shelf at my store daily, and I don't know what it's for. Like, if people had questions about it, I'd have to make stuff up, because I don't know. I'm gonna have to just start reading the labels on that stuff, I guess.
So do you know where everything is in every aisle?
I know where everything is, but some of the stuff, people will ask for things, and I'm not sure what they're asking for. But anyway, all right. So we've got actually some baseball questions coming up.
I'll make a side note on that. My wife and I will go to Best Buy, and we're looking for electronics. Doesn't happen that often, once every couple of years.
Yeah.
And she thinks that these kids are like 18 years old. They got working in the laptop department, know everything. I'm saying, so when I hear them answer questions, oh my God, I know more than this kid. So that would be me if someone asked me something about fabric softener when we went there. But it's amazing how, because someone has the uniform on, automatically you think they're an expert, but
sure,
they're not half the time.
Exactly. All right, question 3. We got a couple baseball questions here. In your opinion, what city should get the Oakland A's? Obviously, it looks like they're leaving at some point.
Well, if they get the A's can draw if they have the right facility in the right place, but it looks like that's going to be political football. And I think that A's fans wouldn't have difficulty switching over to the Giants. I just think it's a Bay Area team and they can adapt. So I don't think it would be a loss if they stayed. I mean, I think they'll succeed if they get a good place if they stay, and it wouldn't be a loss if they left. But seeing what's happened in hockey with Las Vegas and seeing what's happening with football in Las Vegas, how it's become, and the biggest fear the NHL had was the fact that it would just be like a gimmicky thing, like casinos would be giving out complimentary tickets, and it would just be tourists from the other teams coming in. Well, that's not the case at all. They're sold out season ticket wise. Their ticket prices are some of the highest in the NFL. The Raider fans have gobbled up the tickets in Las Vegas. And you have people from Oakland, I guess it's maybe like a 4-hour drive, who are willing to make that trip, and they're still loyal to the Raiders, making the trip out. And what a perfect weekend it is. Like, if you're going to do a road trip, and this, I think, was the original purpose of this, is have a destination stadium where people would come and help the economy and see their team play. But it could be the best of both worlds, where you have a solid fan base rooting for the A's. And can you just imagine, like, the Yankee fans and the Red Sox fans? That would be a must-go-to weekend road trip if they did it out there when they play out there. It would be phenomenal. So Portland has a solid argument. San Antonio, and I don't know how many teams you need in Texas, and I'm not sure how far San Antonio is from Dallas, but I don't see another Texas team working out. Portland, maybe, but you have Seattle. It's sort of like the Red Sox. Seattle's like the Northwest team. But from my own personal perspective, I think it would be fantastic if they move to Las Vegas. I just think it would be fantastic. And the other team that's always talked about being moved is the Rays. And I just don't know, because I know people who have moved to Tampa Bay. And I'm sorry to digress, but this is another situation where a team may be moving, but it is just horrible. It's not the stadium itself per se. It's getting to that ballpark. You got to drive over like a little bridge, a peninsula, and the traffic. It's like an hour and a half after games to get out, even when they have a small crowd. And unless they build it in a perfect locale with a multi-purpose type stadium, sort of like, Milwaukee with the roof opening and closing, I don't see it being feasible there. So my thing is, they're teasing everybody with half the games in Montreal. I say, what the hell? Move to Montreal. Can you imagine what it'd be like if you have Toronto and Montreal in the same division in baseball? I mean, it would be fantastic, and the American League would thrive. You'd have Boston, the Yankees, and who else is the other? Baltimore on the Eastern Seaboard, and they'd be rivals with two Canadian teams. I think that would be fantastic. But back to the A's question, I would, as a fan, I'd love to see them. Now that I know it's successful in hockey and football, I want to see them move to Vegas if they move.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think Vegas will be the move. See, the thing I worry about with cities like Nashville and Portland, I think they would draw for like the first 5-10 years.
Right.
And we could be looking at another Tampa situation where they just, the luster is gone. And I think if you are going to expand, it really does have to be kind of a bigger city. I think San Antonio actually would make sense. But then you got to talk about realignment, because now you got a West Coast team playing in Texas, and I guess that's the case now with the Rangers in Houston.
Might as well just call it the Texas division.
Yeah, you might as well. And so, like you had mentioned the Rays, and that is our fourth question: will Montreal land the Rays? I think the owner right now is teasing that split schedule that you're talking about, but I think, and I know we have Rays fans in this group, and I'm not trying to alienate them, I think Tampa Bay is going to move to Montreal permanently. I think, if anything, in 5-10 years, Montreal might just come back to Tampa and play 3 or 6 games a year as kind of a novelty. But I think Montreal has a better chance to support the Rays going forward with a new stadium. And I agree with you, having the Expos and the Blue Jays in the same division, I think would be great for baseball. Just for the record, by the way, in the Utopia, the Rays will stay in Tampa Bay. The A's will stay in Oakland, because we already have the Expos. And we're not going to do relocations in the Utopian. We might have new stadiums and, players and managers might recycle throughout the years, but we're not going to have any relocations. We're not going to have teams leaving cities in the middle of the night like the Colts in '83.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And to prove your point about Montreal, I think an established city like Montreal, under the right conditions, really would have blossomed. It just didn't work out with the strike year, and they were getting tired of playing in basically a multi-purpose Olympic stadium. Well, I was never there, but they say the sight lines weren't all that great. Well, you look at past examples like Seattle when the Pilots were there. They played basically on a Little League field. And under those conditions, the fans aren't just going to buy it. And they came back. They went to the Kingdom. They got a new stadium. They're blossoming. Even though that team, I don't want to offend Mariners, has probably been the worst team in baseball the last 20 years. So it's good to see that city being revived with the Mariners. And the Brewers are another example. The Braves left. And the Brewers were the perfect move for Seattle to come to Milwaukee, because in this established city, they just needed the right conditions. And now with the new ballpark, they're set. They're set. I mean, I'm not sure how they do TV revenue-wise, but they're doing okay at the box office. I know that. So even the same thing with San Francisco. San Francisco, when they played a Candlestick, they were supposed to move to Tampa Bay. But you put the right conditions in there, and look what happened when they built that new ballpark. It sold out like for 10 years straight. It was unbelievable. You couldn't get a ticket. That was the place to go to. So existing cities that have had baseball, there's a reason why they lost it. They weren't accommodating the conditions and the needs of the ball club at the time. And that's maybe why baseball could succeed in Tampa Bay. But my counterpoint to that is, has baseball ever succeeded in Florida? I mean, they built a new stadium in basically downtown Miami for the Marlins, and still no one goes there. I think Florida, and no knock against Floridians, there's so many options. You go down there to enjoy the outdoors and all the outdoor activities. And they're not like you or me who like live on sports, because there's not really much to do like outdoor wise 10 months out of the year. So we thrive on like sports. That's our entertainment. For them, they have recreational entertainment. So I'm not sure if baseball will ever catch on in Florida in that regard. But I think so. Tampa Bay, I'm not even sure if they were coming up with a concept where they'd have like a baseball stadium, almost like the size of a basketball or hockey arena, like cap it at 24,000. So, and the tickets would be more expensive, but it would be more exclusive, and you'd be more on top of the action. But I haven't heard anything about that in a couple of years. So, yeah. Just due to the fact that I haven't heard anything about that, kind of gives me the inkling they're going to Montreal.
Yeah, that's my prediction as well. So I guess we'll see. I know, like you said, Florida has won 2 World Series, but even with the new stadium, they're always at the bottom of the league in attendance. So, and Tampa Bay was drawing like 8,000-10,000 a game in the regular season. So we'll keep an eye on that. But again, you don't have to worry, Utopian fans. Tampa Bay plays at Ybor City Stadium in the Utopian. The Montreal Expos play at Bronfman Field. Sellouts every night. $1 hot dogs. It's a utopia. All right, our last question of the day. Stan, do you have a nickname?
I'm not sure if you can say some of them on YouTube. And
sure, you can. Yeah, you can say them all.
No. When I was a kid, I grew up in an ethnic neighborhood, a lot of Polish and Ukrainian and Czechoslovakian people. That was old school back then. Like neighborhoods in New Jersey were more ethnic based. So Stash was a very popular name. And then Stan the Man, thanks to Stan Musial when I was playing Little League. I must say I had some talent as a Little League player, and I was able to hit the ball very well. And my skills kind of regressed as I got older, and people got bigger and stronger. But as a kid, I could really hit the baseball, and they would call me Stan the Man in Little League as Stan Musial. I wasn't that far removed from Stan Musial's playing days, and I don't even remember Stan Musial as a player because he was basically done by the time I started playing baseball. But my Little League coaches and all that, they would call me Stan the Man and Stash. And then because I have a big ego, I self-anointed myself as the S-Man. So the S-Man wants you to do this. The S-Man wants you to do that. So sarcastically, they'll either call me S-Man in a nice way, or, hey, S-Man, shouldn't you add an A and another S to your name? Like that type of thing. So my self-anointed nickname was the S-Man. just for playful conversation, I'll say, listen, Joey, the yes man think you says you should do this when it comes to the Utopian baseball universe. So that's my nickname. It sticks with people who know me like on a daily basis, but in general, people don't. Stash is faded because everyone I kind of grew up is faded away. And Stan the Man, I still get people who don't even know me, like people at work or wherever. For some reason, that nickname sticks, and it's not probably just me. I think anyone who has the name Stan, they'll call Stan the Man.
Yeah.
I know you're Joey Parmesan. You're, who else are you?
Fugazi.
Who?
So I saw Donnie Brasco in the theaters years
Oh,
ago.
okay. That's a good movie.
Yeah, and I love the Fugazi scene that
Yeah.
starts the movie up, and I use the word a ton, and I just added a Z, and nobody really calls me that too much anymore. My fantasy football league is actually called Fugazi Fantasy Football, but most people right now refer to me as Parm or Joey Parm. In high school, they called me Big Joe Boo because of the Major League reference, because of my last name, Buckholz, BU. So. Yeah, like right now, I think Parm is what most people refer me to outside of Joey.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wanted to be those guys like you just call them you don't even know what their first name is. You just know them by their nickname, like Rusty. Yeah, Rusty Staub. No one knows what Rusty Staub's first name is. It's just Rusty.
What is it? Do you know?
I think it's Daniel Joseph Staub.
Ah, interesting. All right.
Yeah. That's
Well,
like, you know what Tom Seaver, here's a good one. Let's test your med knowledge. What's Tom Seaver's first name?
Give me a second, because I know this, but I can't recall it right now. Is it Edward?
No, but that's a good guess, but it's not even close. George Thomas Seaver.
Yeah.
I don't know why they call him Tom, but I know there's a story behind that. But I think maybe because his father was George. Maybe that's what it was. I can't remember. And here's one you got to know this one. What's Babe Ruth's first name?
Oh, that I know, George Herman.
Right. Okay. All right. I was gonna say I may drop you from these broadcasts if you didn't know that one. But that's good. Those are the kind of nicknames I want. You just know them by your nickname.
Yeah.
Or have celebrity status where you're just known by one name: Cher, Madonna, Elvis. No one's going to say Stan and think of me right away. So,
well, Stan Phillips, again, we have Stan every Friday. He is the creator of Baseball: A Way of Life, New York Mets: A Way of Life, the fun stuff. He does a bunch of great stuff on Facebook. On Mondays, I'm with him at 7:30 Central on Baseball: A Way of Life. So join the group, because it's the only place you can see me on Mondays with Stan. And this Monday, we're going to preview the Utopian Baseball Universe Championship Series. We're going to do that exclusively on Baseball: A Way of Life Monday. So you're going to hear that before you even see it here. So join Stan's group, Baseball: A Way of Life. 10,000 members this guy's got. So you have to join this group. It's a fantastic group. And again, we mentioned it earlier in the show, we're going to be working together very closely going forward with some big announcements in the next couple of weeks. So Stan, thanks for being here again.
And can I make one closing comment?
Of course.
If you're already a subscriber to the group, and I hope you are, we have a question of the day. Well, one way we're going to lead into this is maybe every third day I'm going to ask a question. Like, would you be interested in such and such? Or what questions would you want answered? And we're going to be working off of what you people want. So we're going to have maybe like a 3-week build up to this and kind of get what you want, and then work out some kind of schedule, or once a week, Joey and I will join forces. And it looks like now it might be a Wednesday night around 7 p.m. Central Time, Joey. Is that what we're shooting for?
Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at right now is Wednesdays.
So we'll have one big broadcast, and hopefully we'll have a full house. We can have up to 8 participants besides ourselves. And we'll try to get a feel for what everyone wants in the coming weeks by asking these questions every couple of days. And if you do answer the question, don't be surprised if you're contacted by us to be a prospective guest. So it'll be fun. Once you get on board, you probably want to be on every week. So looking forward to that. And as Joey said, Mondays I'm on He's on my show Friday. I'm here, but you're going to see a lot more of us starting the second week in November.
All right. So everyone have a great Friday. No games today in the Utopian. Game 6 is tomorrow. Padres and Reds. Reds have a 3 games to 2 lead in this series. They swept San Diego in San Diego. The road team is 5-0 in this series. Game 6 tomorrow, 2:00 Central. Johnny Cueto versus Eric Shao. Again, everyone have a great weekend. Stan, I'll see you Monday.
Sounds good. Enjoy the weekend, Joey.
All right.
Who the Browns
care,
playing?
everybody.
Who the Browns playing?
They are hosting the Arizona Cardinals.
Ooh, that may be a national game of the week. That is a 4:00 start or 3:00 Central, whatever it may be.
It's 3:00, and actually, it is the national game, but unfortunately, because Fox doesn't have a doubleheader this weekend in Milwaukee, we're going to get the Packers Bears at noon, so we can't see that Browns Cardinals game, but the rest of the country is going to get that game.
Well, the ironic thing is, if you know how to look on the internet, you can find all these NFL broadcasts for illegal streams. If you really want to watch the game, there's a way to do it all the time.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I've done that, but I'm not saying I haven't done that. So we'll figure that out for this Sunday. Browns hosting the Cardinals, 5-0 Cardinals against the 3-2 Browns, but the Browns could be 5-0 too. I think they scored 42 last weekend and lost, and then on opening week they led Kansas City by 11 late, and their punter fumbled their first punt attempt of the year. So I'm not worried. I think the Browns will win this weekend by 4. I'm going to say like 28-24 this weekend.
Well, I love both quarterbacks, and the NFL is now a quarterback league. They've structured it to be a quarterback league, and these two are two of the finest out there. So it should be a great game.
Should be fun. All right, Stan, have a good weekend, and we'll see you
too.
Monday.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.